What happens when silence stops being a sign of weakness and becomes a weapon? Most people don't realize this, but every connection you've ever been in runs on an invisible rhythm. One person sets the tempo, the other adjusts. One observes, the other reacts. And the moment you become the one reacting first, control quietly leaves your hands. We live in an age of noise, constant messages, endless notifications, emotional urgency disguised as care. Everyone is taught to explain faster, reply quicker, prove more. And when something feels unstable, the instinct is always the same: do more. But here's the shock most men never hear until it's too late. You weren't confused. You were conditioned. Conditioned to accept less and call it patience. Conditioned to chase reassurance and call it maturity. Conditioned to believe effort would eventually earn consistency. Silence breaks that conditioning. Not emotional silence, not disappearing in anger, but structural silence, the kind that interrupts patterns and forces the truth to surface. Because when you stop reacting, you stop being predictable. And when you stop being predictable, you stop being controllable. That's where power begins to shift. In this video, you're going to see why being given crumbs was never about her uncertainty. It was about your position. You'll understand how inconsistency becomes a test, why pulling back doesn't create instant reactions, and how silence turns predictability into psychological leverage. Most importantly, you'll learn how to reclaim authority without begging, explaining, or negotiating your value. And brother, if you've ever sat in quiet moments wondering why you were giving more while receiving less, this is the turning point you've been waiting for, where silence becomes strength, and strength becomes identity. Because once you see what crumbs really are, you can't unsee it. And that's where the story truly begins. 1. Crumbs aren't love. They're a position. If someone only ever gave you crumbs, it wasn't because they lacked feelings. It was because they knew, consciously or not, that you would stay anyway. That's the part that hurts the most, because it shifts the question away from her intentions and toward your tolerance. You weren't confused because you didn't understand her. You were confused because you accepted less than you deserved and called it patience. You told yourself you were being mature, understanding, emotionally intelligent. But beneath that language was a quiet compromise you never agreed to out loud. Think about how it actually began, not the highlights, the pattern. Short replies that replaced depth. Delayed answers that made you hesitate before checking your phone again. Warmth one day, distance the next. Just enough attention to keep you invested, never enough to make you feel secure. The inconsistency didn't push you away. It pulled you closer because you were trying to regain what had just slipped out of reach. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you adjusted downward. You told yourself she was busy, that she was guarded, that she was going through something. You became generous with explanations for her behavior because those explanations allowed you to stay without confronting what it was costing you. But deep down, you felt it. You were shrinking your expectations to maintain access. You were lowering your standards to keep the connection alive. That's the conflict most men never articulate. Not rejection, but rationing. Affection given sparingly, like a favor instead of a choice. Attention offered just often enough to prevent you from leaving, but never enough to make you feel chosen. And because it wasn't overt cruelty, you questioned yourself instead. You wondered if you were asking for too much, if your needs were unreasonable, if patience was the price of love. That quiet humiliation doesn't announce itself. It settles in slowly. It teaches you to be grateful for fragments, to feel relieved when you receive what should have been normal, to mistake scarcity for depth. Stoicism cuts through that illusion with a hard but liberating truth. What people give consistently reveals how they value you, not what they say, not what they promise, not what they offer in rare moments of warmth. Consistency is the measure. Crumbs are not an accident, they are information. They reveal a position, one shaped not only by what she offered, but by what you accepted. And acceptance, repeated over time, becomes structure. A structure where one person adjusts and the other remains comfortable. This isn't about blame, it's about clarity. Because the moment you see that crumbs were never about her capacity, but about your position, the narrative breaks. You stop asking why she couldn't give more. You start asking why you stayed where less became normal. And that shift doesn't create anger, it creates awareness. And awareness is the first movement of power. Once you see the position clearly, you can no longer pretend the story is the same. And from that point forward, nothing unfolds the way it did before. 2. Crumbs are a test. Every crumb comes with a silent question attached. At the time, you thought her inconsistency meant uncertainty. You believed she didn't know what she wanted yet, that her mixed signals came from confusion, fear, or emotional baggage. But in reality, something far more deliberate was happening. She wasn't unsure about her feelings. She was watching how you reacted to scarcity. It shows up in small, almost forgettable moments. A message left unseen, a plan that suddenly slips her mind. Affection pulled back just slightly. Never enough to start a fight, never enough to justify walking away, just enough to create tension and see what you'd do with it. And every time it happened, you leaned in harder. You explained more than necessary. You reassured when no reassurance was asked for. You gave more time, more patience, more emotional energy, hoping to stabilize something that felt like it was slipping. You told yourself this was maturity, that strong men communicate. That effort would eventually restore balance. But from her side, your reaction answered a question she never had to ask out loud. How little can I give and still keep him? That question isn't always conscious, it's instinctive. People test boundaries the way gravity tests structure. Gently at first, then repeatedly. And when nothing pushes back, the structure shifts. She wasn't testing your heart. She was testing your boundaries and self-control. Each time scarcity appeared and you responded with more effort, the test escalated. Not because she wanted to hurt you, but because the pattern worked. Distance produced reassurance. Pulling back produced investment. Inconsistency produced loyalty. And that's how tests evolve. Stoicism teaches a hard truth here. Tests don't stop when you pass. They stop when you refuse to take them. As long as you respond to crumbs by chasing them, the dynamic reinforces itself. Scarcity becomes leverage. Your reactions become predictable. And predictability, no matter how caring it looks, quietly erodes respect. Refusing the test doesn't mean confrontation. It doesn't require anger or ultimatums. It requires restraint. The ability to pause instead of react, to let a gap exist without rushing to fill it, to allow silence to stand without explaining yourself out of it. That moment, when you stop chasing crumbs, is not rejection. It's self-governance. And once that refusal becomes consistent, the entire structure begins to shift. Because without your predictable response, the test loses its power. The pattern breaks. And when the pattern breaks, the balance can no longer stay the same. That's where the next phase begins. 3. Chasing crumbs kills leverage. The moment you chase crumbs, you lose the board. That sentence alone explains why so many men feel powerless without ever being rejected outright. Because you were taught something that sounds noble but quietly destroys leverage. The belief that effort creates value. That if you show up more, care more, explain more, the connection will eventually balance itself. But reality doesn't reward effort in isolation, it rewards reciprocity. Unreciprocated effort doesn't make you valuable, it makes you predictable. And predictability in human dynamics is rarely respected. Look at the pattern honestly. She goes quiet, and you reply instantly the moment she reappears. She delays and you follow up to make sure everything is okay. She invests less and you compensate by giving more of your time, more reassurance, more emotional availability. You tell yourself you're being mature, grounded, understanding. But what you're really doing is trying to stabilize something that was never meant to be stabilized from one side. And that's where the conflict begins. Because leaning in harder doesn't restore connection. It removes tension. It removes uncertainty. It removes the very space where desire and respect grow. Instead, it creates a rhythm she can rely on completely. No matter how little she gives, she knows exactly what you'll do next. You become the man who is always there, always available, always explaining himself. And here's the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. Availability without standards becomes invisible. Not because you lack value, but because value that is never protected is unconsciously discounted. Think about how it feels from her side. There's no risk, no urgency, no sense that access to you is something that could be lost. You are steady, predictable, emotionally present on demand. That might sound like strength, but in relational dynamics, it quietly erodes leverage. Stoicism offers a counterintuitive correction here. It teaches that power doesn't belong to the loudest voice or the most persistent effort. Power belongs to the one who can pause, the one who doesn't rush to fill silence, the one who doesn't treat every gap as a problem to solve. Pausing is not indifference, it's self-command. When you pause, you interrupt the automatic loop. You stop reacting on instinct and start acting with intention. You allow space to exist long enough for it to mean something. And in that space, dynamics reveal themselves. This is where many men feel anxiety rise, the urge to reach out, the fear of being forgotten, the discomfort of not knowing how she'll respond. But Stoicism isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about choosing which discomfort leads to growth. The discomfort of pausing builds authority. The discomfort of chasing dissolves it. And this is the realization that reframes everything. You weren't playing chess anymore. You were being moved. Your reactions were no longer choices. They were reflexes triggered by her behavior. And when someone else controls your reflexes, they control the board. That's why the dynamic felt so one-sided. Not because she was cruel or manipulative by design, but because the structure rewarded her minimal investment and punished your excess effort. Once you see this clearly, you stop blaming yourself for caring. Caring was never the problem. The problem was giving without grounding, showing up without standards, moving without pause. Stoic strategy doesn't ask you to withdraw emotionally or become cold. It asks you to reclaim the space between stimulus and response, to slow the tempo, to stop proving value through urgency. Because the moment you stop chasing crumbs, something subtle but powerful happens. You're no longer reacting to the board, you're stepping back to see who's actually playing. And that shift is what sets the stage for the next transformation. When predictability disappears and the imbalance begins to turn in a way most men never expect. 4. Why she didn't miss you. At first. Here's the part that messes with your head. When you finally pulled back, truly pulled back, nothing happened. No panic, no sudden apology, no emotional confession. Sometimes, not even a message at all. That silence is brutal because it hits a place most men don't like to admit exists. A quiet doubt creeps in, sharp and personal. Did I matter at all? If your absence didn't shake her immediately, it's easy to assume you were never important in the first place. But that conclusion is false and dangerous. Her calm wasn't confidence, it was conditioning. For a long time, you filled every gap before it could widen. You replied before silence had weight. You followed up before uncertainty had time to grow. You returned before absence could register. Your presence wasn't something she evaluated. It was something she assumed. So when you finally stepped back, her nervous system didn't panic. It defaulted to memory, to history, to the pattern that had always ended the same way. He'll come back. This is where most men misread the situation and sabotage themselves. They expect immediate feedback, immediate validation, immediate proof that their withdrawal mattered. And when it doesn't arrive, anxiety kicks in. The urge to reach out returns. The silence feels pointless. The old reflexes start pulling you back into motion. But Stoicism teaches a deeper truth. People don't react to change immediately. They react when patterns break. At first, your silence didn't break the pattern. It only paused it. From her perspective, this looked familiar, temporary. Another fluctuation she didn't need to take seriously. That's why there was no reaction. Not because you didn't matter, but because history told her she didn't need to worry. Her certainty didn't come from your absence. It came from your past behavior. And that's why the real shift hadn't started yet. Absence only becomes powerful when it stays long enough to contradict expectation. When the assumption that he'll be back goes unanswered. When time stretches just far enough to create friction between belief and reality. This is the stage where patience becomes discipline. You're not being ignored, you're being measured by time. Each day you don't rush back in weakens the old certainty. Each moment you resist the urge to explain reinforces that something is different now. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the silence changes quality. It stops feeling empty. It starts feeling heavy. That's why this phase is so uncomfortable. It requires you to hold your position without reassurance, to trust that silence doesn't work on a clock. It works on expectation, and expectations only collapse when they're denied consistently. Most men never reach that point. They break too early. They mistake calm for indifference and rush back in to restore comfort, hers and theirs. But if you hold steady, something inevitable happens. The silence she once ignored stops being familiar, and that's when the real disturbance begins. 5. Silence disrupts control. Silence is the first disturbance. Most men believe they've gone silent when they stop texting or calling, but what they usually do is go quiet emotionally, not structurally. They pause the words, yet remain available in every other way. They're not present, but they're not gone either. They still watch her stories, still like her posts, still wait quietly, hoping something will happen. That isn't silence. That's hovering. Hovering keeps the channel open. It reassures her that access still exists, even if communication has slowed. From her perspective, nothing truly changes. She can still feel you nearby, still sense your attention orbiting her space. And because of that, control remains exactly where it was. Real silence works differently. Real silence removes feedback, no reassurance, no emotional mirrors, no subtle confirmations that she still has influence over your state. And the human mind, especially one used to constant validation, hates empty space. This is where the shift begins. When you stop explaining yourself, she loses context. When you stop signaling interest, she loses orientation. There's no tone to interpret, no reaction to measure, no emotional temperature to regulate. Suddenly, she's no longer responding to you. She's responding to uncertainty. That discomfort isn't dramatic at first. It's subtle, a slight restlessness, a vague sense that something feels different. And that's because control doesn't collapse loudly. It erodes quietly when feedback disappears. This is also where most men struggle the most. Silence triggers anxiety on both sides. The urge to check in, the impulse to clarify, the fear that doing nothing means losing ground. But Stoicism teaches that true control is not maintained through constant action, it's maintained through restraint. Silence isn't passive, it's an active withdrawal of influence. When you stop filling the gaps, her mind fills them for you, and it rarely fills them kindly. Questions start forming without answers. Assumptions lose stability. The certainty she once felt begins to wobble. Why hasn't he reacted? Why doesn't this feel normal? Why does the quiet feel heavier than before? That's the disturbance. Partial silence fails because it still feeds the loop. Watching from a distance keeps you psychologically present. It softens the absence. It tells her you're still reachable, still emotionally nearby, still responding internally, even if you're not speaking. True silence has edges, no lingering, no quiet monitoring, no digital breadcrumbs, not to punish, not to provoke, but to align your actions with your decision to step back. Stoic silence isn't emotional withdrawal, it's structural change. And structure is what defines power. When feedback disappears completely, control destabilizes. The old rhythm no longer works. The certainty that once felt safe starts to crack. Silence doesn't scream, it whispers directly into insecurity. And the longer that whisper goes unanswered, the louder it becomes. Because what was once background noise slowly turns into a void that can't be ignored. And when that happens, the silence stops being neutral and starts becoming something she feels compelled to respond to. 6. Uncertainty creates obsession. People don't obsess over what they understand. That single truth explains more about human attachment than most relationship advice ever will. Obsession doesn't grow from clarity. It grows from disruption, from something that used to be certain, suddenly becoming unclear. For a long time, your presence was predictable, not because you were boring, but because you were consistent to the point of being assumed. Good morning texts that arrived like clockwork. Immediate replies, no matter how busy you were. Emotional availability on demand, without hesitation or resistance. You showed up the same way every time. And because of that, she never had to think about you. That's not an insult, it's a psychological fact. The mind doesn't focus on what feels guaranteed. It relaxes around it. It allocates attention elsewhere. Predictability creates comfort, but it also creates invisibility. Then something changed. The texts didn't arrive. The replies slowed, or didn't come at all. The emotional access she relied on quietly disappeared. At first, nothing dramatic happened, just a subtle shift, a pause she assumed was temporary, a silence she expected you to fill like you always had. But when you didn't, the mind took notice. Curiosity came first. She checked her phone more often. She reread old messages. She wondered briefly if you were busy or distracted. Then curiosity turned inward. Why hasn't he reached out? Did I misjudge how invested he was? Is he pulling away, or has something changed? That's when uncertainty began doing its work. Uncertainty hijacks attention because the brain hates unresolved loops. It searches for answers. It fills gaps with imagined explanations. And when there's no information coming from the outside, the mind turns on itself. This is where most men misunderstand what's happening. They think pulling back creates distance. In reality, it creates mental proximity. You're no longer present in action, but you become present in thought. Not because of romance, because of psychology. The less you do, the more her mind works. And that work is rarely neutral. It drifts toward self-doubt, toward comparison, toward imagined outcomes that feel heavier than reality ever did. When certainty vanishes, the nervous system looks for something to stabilize itself, and when it can't, it fixates. This is how obsession forms, not as longing, not as love, but as a loss of control over attention. She didn't obsess because you were perfect. She obsessed because the pattern she relied on stopped responding to her expectations. The script broke. And when scripts break, people panic quietly. Stoicism understands this mechanism deeply. It teaches that attention follows disruption, not availability. That control dissolves when outcomes can no longer be predicted. and that the strongest position in any dynamic is not the one who reacts, but the one who remains unreadable. This doesn't require manipulation, it requires restraint. By not rushing back in, by not explaining the silence, by not restoring the old rhythm prematurely, you allow uncertainty to exist long enough to do its work. You don't manufacture obsession, you stop preventing it. Because previously, every time doubt surfaced on her side, you resolved it for her. With reassurance, with presence, with effort. You answered questions she hadn't even voiced yet. Now, those questions echo unanswered. And unanswered questions have weight. This is the moment the internal balance begins to tilt. She's no longer fully oriented toward herself. Part of her attention is pulled outward, trying to locate you again, trying to understand the shift, trying to regain the certainty she once had. And that's when the roles begin to reverse. You're no longer the one waiting for replies. You're no longer the one scanning for signals. You're no longer the one adjusting your behavior to maintain connection. That cognitive burden has moved. But here's the crucial part most men miss. This only works if you don't break the spell yourself. The moment you rush back to restore clarity, the loop closes. The uncertainty collapses. The obsession fades. Stoic discipline means allowing the discomfort to breathe. Because once uncertainty takes hold, it doesn't disappear on command. It deepens, it compounds, and it quietly reshapes the dynamic in ways words never could. And as that mental shift accelerates, something even more powerful follows. Not just obsession, but a fundamental change in who is chasing and who is being chased. 7. Withdrawal resets the field. Strategic withdrawal isn't disappearance, it's repositioning. That distinction matters more than most men realize. Because when you first pull back, the instinct is to frame it as punishment, a way to make her feel something, to provoke a reaction, to regain leverage through absence. And that mindset quietly ruins the entire move before it ever has a chance to work. Men confuse silence with punishment because they're still emotionally entangled. They withdraw, hoping for a result, hoping she'll notice, hoping she'll reach out, hoping the silence will do something. But Stoic withdrawal is different. Stoic silence is neutral, not emotional. It's not fueled by anger, resentment, or the need to be seen. It's calm, grounded, almost indifferent. And that neutrality is exactly what makes it powerful. There are no threats attached to it, no ultimatums waiting behind it, no explanations offered to justify it. You don't announce that you're stepping back. You don't explain why you're doing it. You don't try to frame it in a way that feels fair or reasonable. You simply change your position. That's where the real conflict begins, not between you and her, but between her expectations and reality. Because when withdrawal is clean, consistent, and emotionally uncharged, it disrupts the structure she relied on. You are no longer moving to her rhythm. You are no longer responding on cue. You are no longer available in predictable ways. All that's left is distance, consistency, unpredictability, and those three elements quietly reset the entire field. Distance removes immediate access. Consistency removes doubt about whether the change is real. Unpredictability removes her ability to anticipate and regulate the dynamic. Together, they do something explanations never could. They force adaptation. This is where most men misunderstand power. They think power is something you demand, something you assert, something you negotiate for through words. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Power is positional. It emerges naturally when you stop occupying a place that requires constant defense. By withdrawing strategically, you remove yourself from her rhythm. You stop being part of the pattern that made her comfortable giving less. And when that pattern disappears, behavior has to adjust, not because you asked for it, not because you pressured it, but because access changed. This is the part that feels counterintuitive. Doing less feels like losing ground. Silence feels like surrender. Distance feels risky, but that's only true if your identity is still tied to being present at all costs. When you withdraw without emotional noise, you're not shrinking, you're clarifying, you're defining where you stand by what you no longer chase, and clarity has weight. From her side, the shift registers slowly. At first, she assumes it's temporary. Then she notices the consistency. Then she realizes something fundamental has changed. Not in your words, but in your posture. You're no longer reacting to her behavior. You're no longer adjusting yourself to maintain access. You're no longer negotiating your position through effort. And that's when the field resets. You don't demand power, you create the conditions for it to return. Because power flows toward whoever controls access, rhythm, and response. When those three move back into your hands, the dynamic rebalances on its own. Behavior changes not out of fear, but out of necessity. This is why Stoic withdrawal works when everything else fails. It doesn't try to fix the surface. It changes the structure underneath. It doesn't argue with patterns. It exits them. And once you exit cleanly, something unavoidable happens. The space you leave behind stops feeling empty and starts feeling consequential. Because when access disappears, attention follows. And when attention shifts, behavior always changes. That's when the next phase begins. Not just a change in how she acts, but a deeper shift in who is reacting to whom. 8. She becomes the seeker. This is where the obsession surfaces. Not in grand confessions, not in dramatic apologies, but in something far more revealing. A casual reach out that pretends nothing has changed. After a stretch of real silence, she reappears lightly. A late-night text that feels oddly timed. A nostalgic comment on something from the past. A simple, just checking in, wrapped in familiarity, as if the distance never existed. On the surface it looks harmless, almost friendly. But underneath, it's not love returning, it's control verification. She's testing the old rhythm, testing whether access is still guaranteed, testing if the version of you who always responded, always reassured, always leaned forward is still available on demand. This is the moment where the dynamic either collapses back into the past or shifts permanently. Because when your response doesn't match what she expects, something jolts her nervous system. If you don't reply immediately, if your message is short and neutral, if you don't follow up, explain, or reopen the emotional channel, the imbalance becomes undeniable. From her perspective, this isn't just unexpected, it's destabilizing. The old levers no longer work.